Hi everyone! I bet you haven't seen this baby for a while. Yes, it's back. My watercolor palette is back. So excited. So today we're going to do the watercolor portion of this. So this illustration we have done in two parts. First of all, I showed you how to build it using these stamp sets. So these are the new stamp sets, which are all available on Alyona Creates on my Etsy shop. And so buttercup, and then I used the wax flower in this arrangement. There is also pansy and lavender. And then I also used some of the filler flowers, so these two, and the rosebuds and the foliage. I used it from the floral set, which will be back in stock very soon. And then the actual vase, I used the bun from the FOTD set. So if you manage to get yours, then you can pull it out and use it that way as well. I will try to link it in the card up here for you to look how we build this. Then there was a second video which I showed how to do floral zen doodling, which was super relaxing, and how to connect certain things. So for example, these small stamp sets, they are complete flower illustrations, and the floral set, it only has elements which you could use to build, but you need to learn how to connect them. And I have loads of tutorials on my channel. It's fairly simple, so you can do floral arrangements or clusters like this, or you can add them to the new stamp sets and use them together or separate, whichever way you want. But this is how we created it. Now to the fun part. Not that the other parts were not fun, but you have to understand something of this scale does take time. If you have, I'd say about an hour, if you like to work really slowly and relax into it, that's your art therapy right there. Something like this doesn't take 5 minutes, because you do need to build it, you need to line it out, and you need to do watercolor. So by the end that you are finished with all 3 steps of this, you will be like, you know, super relaxed. It's how I feel anyway, so I hope you'd feel the same. I'm going to grab my silver black velvet in 4. So this is a round brush. It's my favorite brush. If you would ask me what's my favorite brush and the brush I would recommend to use with this sizing of stamps, then or illustration, it's the size 4, because I can do something as big as this and something as small as these smaller areas. So for watercolor palette, there are links below if you're interested what colors there are. I have a whole video dedicated sharing every single color, and actually there is a video when I put this palette together, so if you're one of those that likes watching it, go have a look at that. And I am going to start with it. Also, I do want to use a touch of the Naphthalene Maroon. It's like currently my one of my favorite colors. I'm just trying to find where I squeezed it out. So I'll probably use that as well. So yes, I squeezed tiny little bit into my handmade watercolor palette. If you're new to this channel, this is the Lip and Cheek palette, which is also available along with all those stamp sets that I showed you on my Etsy shop. Okay, so I've got a little bit squeezed out there. I might use it, pretty sure I will use it because I love it. I'll try to link everything down below for you so that you can, if you like any of these things, you can find them easier. Okay, so let's see, that's causing a bit of a shadow. I'm just going to have a sip of tea before we start. Now, I'm not sure what color vase I want, and I probably will leave that to the last, because I want to create a lovely color palette for the flowers. So buttercup, I will keep it nice and yellow. So I'm going to go for the nickel azu yellow, which is my favorite yellow. I mentioned this before. It's like Indian yellow. It's very organic, very natural. It's not too bright, doesn't have that sort of acid yellow type of a color, and I love that. So we need really minimal watercolor here, and the thing is, I haven't used this for a while, so I'm gonna get my little towel out here. for water control. So basically, I've got a little bit of fiber here, which I'm trying to lift. I'm using MD cotton notebook, which has been discontinued in this A5 size, which is a shame. We all should protest. But yeah, I will be upgrading into a new sketchbook soon, and that will be that Strathmore Mixed Media 100% cotton. Watercolor just behaves so beautifully on 100% cotton paper, and it's going to be 190 GSM, which this one is very thin, but it does take water nicely. So I'm just kind of getting ready in my mind to say goodbye to this and just use up the few pages or the last pages that I have left. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to move on to the other buttercup flower. I just love this buttercup. I don't know what it is about it. Generally, I don't like yellow flowers, but this buttercup is gorgeous. I should try find it and plant it in my garden, actually, because it would look so pretty combined with other flowers. Although I don't know whether they would actually last. You know, like some wildflowers, if you pick them, they actually go down very quickly, become very flimsy, and they don't stay in a bouquet. I don't know how this one is. If you have any knowledge about buttercup, do let us know. Okay, so that's the buttercup done. Now these are the wax flowers, and they were growing in my garden at some point. And actually this is the illustration from my garden, this flower. I remember they were pinky. That's what I do remember. And they're quite pretty. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color here and there. Do a little bit of mixing as well. I'm filming now on a Friday, and yesterday has been one of those days when I was trying to, well, I was working very late, and I was putting all the new products up on my ESSIE. And that is quite a long process to do that, to create a listing, like a new listing. And it felt so good to have done it in the end. And of course you're a bit tired in the morning, but that sort of buzz that you have, you know, when you produce something new and you're very happy with the product and with the outcome, that's kind of how I feel with running my own shop. It's really fulfilling. And you know, when you then also let me know that you really like them and your comments come through to say how you're enjoying my stamp sets, it really is, yeah, it's makes you feel like you are doing something right. And I'm so happy that you are enjoying these, because when I started designing these sets, I kind of had myself in mind, because this is something I wanted to have and I wanted to purchase, but it wasn't available anywhere. So I thought, okay, well, I'll have to, you know, create it myself then. And that's how the whole thing started. So I'm very happy how well received these stamps have been. So for the darker color now, this is exactly where that Naphthalene Maroon would work just perfectly. So a little touch right here. And it's fine if it's going to run into the rest of the flower, because that's watercolor. And it just, sometimes when things are a little bit too precise, it becomes a bit more clinical and too clean. With watercolor, it's more fun to play around and let sometimes the watercolor do its thing and run into one another and create new shades and have that lovely blooming, and yeah, gorgeous. Okay, so with the Naphthalene Maroon, I find that I love it when it's at its strongest. So then I quite often find myself that I do build up the color, because once it runs into something and becomes quite pale, I don't like it as much. So then let's see, Maybe I'll just do this little bit of opaque color right in the center. And then a bit of pink on the petal here. So then we need to move on to a bit of greenery. And of course we've got some sub green here, which is lovely. And just going to add a bit of sub green. Onto here. I like leaving a few highlights here and there and not covering everything. The other thing that I like is the aesthetic of these clear stamp sets. I like it when it's nice and delicate and fine. You know, I just want that one line type of thing. I don't want to have stalks that are very thick and like clunky. I just want it to be nice and delicate. And that's why you also don't need to fiddle around and try to fill in some green. You just do with the leaves and the bottom of the flowers, and that's pretty much it. So that's what I had in mind when I was designing these lovelies. So for the rose, I'm going to go for a yellow green. So I find that a rose looks the best with this color. I don't like too dark green on a rose. So you can see with the tip of this brush, I can totally get into the finest areas. And it's a great size. So I don't need to use a couple of different brush sizes. I can get away with just one. Okay, so starting to really lift things up once you add green, doesn't it? So then I'm going to add a little bit of green onto this bud and the center of the buttercup. And then just, if it's sitting there a bit too much, that's it. I'm just going to wash it out a little. Now, so far we have these two colors. I will leave these to last because I haven't decided what color I want. The roses, I want them pink. Or possibly, shall I have them pink? Maybe I'll go with this pinky pink, like a milky pink. By the way, I have seen some of the new colors that came out earlier this year, and I somehow missed it completely, but it's the White Nights pastel colors. There are a couple of the pinks and a couple of the colors that I really like. Oh, this is another thing I like to do. I'm going to do it here as well. I like to let the green go into the pink on the roses. I find it very, very pretty. So the colors here are fantastic. Now I'm going to finish off with the leaf and then we will see. So I'm going to lighten it up a little. That's a bit too much, but I'm just going to start with that, do like a first glaze, and then I'm going to dip in a little bit of a darker color so that it will kind of glow a little bit. So now I'm going to go into sub green and just let it move in and look quite beautiful like that. That's it. So the highlights might be a bit too big, so then you just make them a bit smaller. Okay, so that's our green, nice and juicy and bright. Now, originally I kind of was thinking of something contrasting, like a blue color. Would that be too much or would that be quite nice? I actually quite like what I have here, this color here. That looks quite nice, doesn't it? So let me try using it. I have no idea what's in this mix. It's kind of like this grayish blue, purple. Yeah, that looks pretty. So again, I'm going to leave a nice little highlight. I don't want the color to be too intense. I'm kind of really watering it out. There you go. That looks nice. Yeah, I like that. So at this point I can then decide what color vase I want. I'll go with this lilac. There we go, it's right here. So this is the Daniel Smith lavender. And I quite fancy it. So the trick here with the vase is always think of it as a square, or not square, a sphere. And you will add the darkest, like you know when you're looking at an apple, the darkest around it. And then you wash out some of the area. It's easier to do it in a couple of goes, so if you need to, so like that, you need to dry it now and then do a second layer. I'll just quickly do that. So now I think I will do a bit more just around the sides. Like that. Okay, and then the back of the vase, I'm going to probably do it actually darker. Something like with a grey is probably better anyway, because it's supposed to look like a shadow in there anyway. So you can separate the two, create a little bit of a shadow effect. Just a little darker. That's it. So make sure it's not sort of black and really contrasting. You don't want your eye to go there. I also realized I have not finished this. So I'm going to go back into the Naphthalite Maroon, and there we go. Now it's nice and juicy. Sometimes I kind of would go 3 times over it, because when it dries out it sort of shifts a lot. So depending how dark you want it to be, that's what we might need to do. And that is it. So if I wanted to, I could doodle a few lines for those flowers here, which I might actually do now. And also you can do some doodling on the vase if you wanted to, but it's up to you. There we go. So that makes it look a bit more nice. Kind of detaches it from the color, the same color that's been used on the vase. So that is it. I think it looks super, super neat, and it was so fun to do that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm going to bring you a bit closer. And hopefully you can see how the lovely rosebuds look with the green blending into that milky pinky color. So that's how you can create these spring flowery type of arrangements. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.